Hi everyone, I'm Joe Santacroce and welcome back to our Career Connection series. Today's topic is going to be around internships, and I'm pleased to be joined today by two guests. Our first guest is Erika Eli. Erika has worked in career services for more than 12 years. She currently serves as the Assistant Director of Career Exploration and Exposure at the University of Maryland, College Park, where she oversees 3 online career courses, career exposure programs, including internships, and student advising. Erika, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to have a conversation with us today.
Thanks for having me, Joe. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So a couple questions for you around internships. First one's pretty straightforward. From the perspective of a student, what would you say is the real value of doing an internship?
So there's a lot of value, and it all depends on also where they are developmentally and where they are in their career journey. So just starting out, there's a lot of studies out there reporting that relevant internships experience is the most influential hiring factor for employers. So when students are just starting out in their career journey, for starting out in their college profession, it gives students an opportunity to try to start to explore some different types of work, right? What does it look like out there? What are some different career fields maybe that you have heard of, but also that you haven't heard of before? So just good exposure and exploration, but then also maybe for the students are a little bit clearer about their career interests. It gives them an opportunity to continue to build their network, and to really gain some more substantial professional experience. But something that I really want to make sure that students know is that not all internships are created equal. And so it's really important for the students to be really asking some good intentional questions as they're talking to employers about a potential internship experience. Unfortunately, some employers don't always put as much of an effort into their internships as they should. And so we want to make sure that students are really getting some meaningful work experiences, that the students know what projects they're going to be a part of, and do those projects sound appealing? What kind of training will the employer have in place for them to make sure that the student is feeling knowledgeable, feeling like they're developing the skill sets that they hope to develop? And so when students are talking to employers about internship experiences, if they don't have the answers to the questions of what projects will I be a part of, what type of training will I receive, I hope that they would be asking that in the interview process to make sure it's a good, valuable experience for them.
Absolutely. Other question for you. So a lot of our students tend to face some barriers when determining, can I actually do an internship as part of my academic experience, right? Whether it's I have family obligations, I have a part-time job that I'm making some good money at that I simply can't leave right now. What advice can you give to our student population to say, if you're facing some of these barriers, how do you potentially overcome that?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is to identify what that barrier is, and because there's going to be some different avenues to try to try to overcome that barrier based off of what it is. So is it an unpaid internship? Maybe it's an experience that you're really excited about, but unfortunately it's unpaid. Sometimes there are some scholarship programs through the campus. There's also some scholarship programs nationally to help fund that unpaid internship, but then also recognizing that some students really just cannot do an unpaid internship. And that's okay too. Maybe there's an opportunity to have a part-time job that's applicable within the field that you're thinking about pursuing. So if you're thinking about IT, is there a part-time job available in your campus's IT department? Or within the different colleges, they all have IT departments. So starting to get creative that way. If you're interested in exercise science, is there a part-time job available through your campus rec department, right? And so not necessarily focusing only on the intern title, but more so trying to get the experiences that are going to give you help you develop the skills that are important within the field that you're thinking about pursuing, or also the projects. If it's a concern with time, so if you already have a part-time job, maybe let's say you are a cashier somewhere, but maybe you're more so interested in the management side of things. Can you do an informational interview with the manager of your store, or can they set you up with the regional manager to maybe do some job shadowing experiences? Have they had interns in the past? If so, what has that looked like, and how can you get connected? Other barriers could potentially include maybe you're not seeing relevant internship postings for something that you're interested in pursuing. And for that, I would say start to research the field that you're thinking about pursuing and what's typical. Some fields, internships aren't typical, or maybe it's more volunteer work. Like if you're interested in the medical field, it might be volunteer positions within a hospital. Or if you're interested in physical therapy, oftentimes it's more about being a physical therapy aide than necessarily being a physical therapy intern. So try not to necessarily rely only on the title of intern. But if you're also still not seeing internship postings that make sense for you in the field that you're thinking about pursuing, I would say reach out to career services and just give them a heads up on the field that you're thinking about, and they might be able to provide you with some strategies, because not every field is also going to actively promote what their internship experiences are. It might be more personal connections or professional connections, and they can help students gain those.
Absolutely. Erika, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to have a conversation with us today.
Absolutely.
Who knows, maybe we'll have you on as a guest on a future episode.
I would love that.
All right. Appreciate it. The rest of the day.
Bye.
Thanks to Erika for her time and expertise today. Our next guest is Diane Bell. Diane is the director of the Internship Program Office at Bridgewater State University, a position she's held since 2013. Diane always shares her internship journey with students, as she never had one as an undergrad, but took advantage of internships during her graduate studies. These internships led her to careers with Toyota Motor Sales USA and the Atlanta Braves of the Major League Baseball team. Diane was hired at Bridgewater State in 2004 to serve as its first ever director of the Community Service Center. Diane, so excited to have you with us today. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes.
Oh, you're very welcome. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. So a couple questions for you. First one is just simply around, from the student perspective, why should somebody seek out an internship opportunity?
I think what's good is that I can actually tell you what some of the students have shared with me. After every student completes an internship, I ask a few reflective questions, and this actually is one of them. So I'm going to share with you a couple of things that I've learned from our students. I think first and foremost, students see an internship as a way, and we hear this all the time, to test drive a career. I always tell students, of course, it's important for you to know what you like and also what you don't like. And of course, the internship is a great way to do it. One of the things I always tell students is to try to do at least 2 internships and try to make them kind of different. One maybe in the public sector, one in the private sector, say a nonprofit or a government organization. Also think about, the company size, whether it's a large company, small company, and start, comparing and contrasting those opportunities. I will never forget 2 students who for one whole year kept coming in and out of my office about wanting to participate in an internship in Washington, D.C. Both of them, they were so excited. They got there, they came back to BSU and told me they don't want a big city. I'm thinking, even something like that, thinking about where you want to be after you graduate, having the large city versus small city experience is good too. Another thing, clearly it's an opportunity to gain some practical experience. And I had a student who was sharing with me that after his internship, he could finally answer that question: what experience do you have in fill in the blank? And he was able to share that, after that internship. I think another thing that students have learned and come back with lots of stories is that, professional office experience. A lot of our students, and I'm sure yours is the same, they have experience working in fast foods and retail, maybe landscaping, daycare, but sometimes they've never actually sat in an office. And I had a student who came back from a full-time internship, and she said, I'm not cut out for the 9-to-5 thing. And so, it was a long day for her. So just to figure that piece out, but to really think about office dynamics. I had a student who had never worked with diverse populations before. And she said this was the first time she'd ever worked with someone who was African-American, another woman who was Latina, and what she learned from them. So I thought, well, that's an interesting and valuable experience. So again, it gives you that opportunity to do something a little bit different than the norm. One of the obvious ones, making that connection between what you're learning in the classroom to what you're going to be doing in person. A student who's a social work major was telling me in class she learned about, different theories. And when she was working at a day shelter for men and women experiencing homelessness, she said she had that aha moment of, oh my gosh, I learned that in chapter 3. So it came to light in terms of, this is why I need to know this information for me to do, my job a little bit better. And I think finally, something that students share with me, a lot of our students don't like group work. And I always tell them, group work is going to fall, you're in a team. And there are employers who are interested to hear about diverse teams. So to give you an example, I was doing a site visit to a company in Cambridge, and they were talking about, thinking you've got your IT folks, but do they ever get to connect with marketing? Do they ever get to connect with accounting? And so I had students in marketing who were on these types of teams where they were, doing some group think. So it was an opportunity to get these diverse perspectives. And so I try to encourage students to do that on campus, but the internship will give them that sort of organically. So again, these are some of the things I'm hearing from students about why they think it's important to do an internship and the skill set that they will gain.
Absolutely. Last question for you. So a lot of our students tend to face different barriers when determining, can I actually do an internship as part of my academic experience? Whether it be I'm in a part-time job, I'm making some money right now. I have family obligations that tend to take me away. What advice can you offer to potentially overcome some of those barriers?
Yeah, we definitely face that a lot at Bridgewater. And again, you probably also do at Salem State. But it's also one of the reasons I love our students, because I think they are resilient and they understand what their barriers are. So, when a student comes to me, first and foremost, we lay out the barriers. Tell me what you got, and let's try to develop a plan of action. So some of the things that I hear, some students come right in with this lack of self-confidence, and that can be a barrier. Can I do this work? Do I know enough? And I say, yes, you can. And let's talk about, what are you trying to learn as a result of doing your internship? A lot of times I was a first gen student, and, I always share this story. When I heard the word intern, I thought medical school. And I'm like, I'm not majoring in biology or chemistry, so I'm not going to do an internship, which is why I didn't do one. And so some students may not even understand the concept of an internship. So we kind of need to get, beyond that and really dive deep into, what some of those concepts about internships are, and help students, to identify that and understand that they can do it. We have students who have shared with me, they might be sight impaired. They might have some mobility challenges, some learning disabilities. And there are organizations that focus on helping students with those conditions, and we talk about them. So I'm happy to share those types of resources with students. Lack of transportation, you probably hear that. And so we are very fortunate to have the MBTA on our campus. So, Boston can be their oyster. So we will talk about and map out opportunities in the city of Boston. So that way, they can get to and from campus. Lack of time tends to be a big one. And a lot of times students, I'm working with one right now who doesn't want to do an internship in the fall or spring semester because of the course load. So the summer is the better option for her. And so we will talk about that. I know since we're in COVID-19 era, a lot of students are looking at the micro internship. So it might, need to be a short experience, but you can still get that, professional experience. And then of course, the remote opportunities now have really opened up. Students are able to maybe still work, at a part-time job, but then do remote work, so that they can gain those skills in their specific area. Some of our students have interesting majors that may be a little bit difficult to find an internship opportunity. And for those students, I highly recommend a couple of organizations that I will mention. We work a lot with the Washington Center. We've also been working with an organization in Boston called Semester in the City. And I have not seen a student who's participated in the Washington Center not find an internship in their field, whether it's history, whether it's art, whether it's sociology. They have been able to find meaningful internships. So I know, there are some barriers to cost, and I'll talk about that next, but that is an opportunity for a student to get a professional experience in that field. So I highly recommend those. I also tell students, don't forget to reach out to faculty who have a lot of connections. So when you're thinking, I can't find an internship, talk to, your chemistry lab professor, talk to your, geography teacher, and they might have some connections in the field. Finances, that is a huge one. Our students work sometimes full-time jobs, sometimes 1, 2, maybe 3 part-time jobs, job on campus, you know, who knows. And fortunately, our BSU Foundation has put some money into a wonderful account that I get to manage, yay. And I'm able to provide students with internship stipend awards. So it may not be, you know, a lot, but it is something that helps students with transportation. They may be able to cut back on those hours at their part-time job to be able to do an internship in their field. One of the things I always tell students is don't say no to an unpaid internship until you've talked to me. And we can talk about how to make that work. So never say no, it's not paid. Let's talk about ways to try to help that, you know, work for you financially. And then I think last but not least, you know, a lot of students, as we were talking about the course load, believe it or not, vast majority of our students actually participate in internships for academic credit. So I tell students, and I had a student who was taking like 9 classes, and I'm like, what are you doing? Internship, 9 classes were 1 credit there. I said, why not do an internship for academic credit? She had never thought about that. And that sort of wiped away like 2 or 3 of those small classes so that she could do something, you know, professionally in her field. You know, I think students just need to open up, talk about what their barriers might be, and let's figure out how to come up with a plan.
Absolutely. Diane, thank you so much for the insight. It's much appreciated, and hopefully we'll see you on here again and sometime in the future as a future guest.
Absolutely. We'd love to. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
All right. You too. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks so much to Diane and both of our guests today for their time and expertise. If you'd like to further the conversation around internships, please go ahead and do so. You can schedule an appointment through your Handshake account by calling us at 978-542-6406 or by emailing us at career@salemstate.edu. Don't forget, check out our resources on our website, salemstate.edu/careers. And we'll see you next time.